More than just appear to be, look at the attack that happened on Saturday morning, literally the day we are recording this interview in Melbourne. A 29-year-old Indian was attacked, set on fire. He's got 15% burns. Now I put it to you, where in the world do muggers burn their victims? But that is precisely what, forgive this, the Ku Klux Klan used to do. That's why people turn around in India and say, this is racial motivation.
Karan, can I just say in relation to that incident, and it's happened as you suggest very recently, this is the subject of a police investigation. Let's wait and see what the facts are. Let's wait and see what the circumstances were. Now, I know that the Australian media has been reporting this as an attack. That may turn out to be correct, but the preliminary advice I have from the Australian authorities is that it's far from certain that it is an attack. It may be, it may not be, but I think in all of these cases it is very important to let the system of justice and the system of police investigation take its course before jumping to conclusions. Initial media reports should never be taken as facts.
Except that I was quoting the Australian paper, the Australian, they claimed that in fact the young Indian of 29 years age was attacked by 4 unidentified assailants as he was getting out of his car between 1 and 2 in the morning. But you say that these are urban opportunistic crimes. Let me quote to you Greg Sheridan, the foreign editor of the Australian newspaper. The government clings to the idiotic defense that most of the crimes are opportunistic, as if it's impossible to be opportunistic and racist. In making these assertions, they must be the only people who believe them. Even leading foreign editors of your top newspapers don't accept the explanation that this is just opportunism.
Well, I have a lot of respect for Greg, who's also a very close friend.
Would you concede he's right?
Well, I regret to say that I disagree with him on this occasion. Karan, let me quote to you something that the president of the Federation of Indian Associations in Victoria said earlier this week in a press statement. He said that to claim every time something bad happens to a person of Indian origin, to claim that that is racism, is simply inaccurate.
Maybe not every time, but it seems the vast majority of the attacks are picking on people because they're Indians.
Well, with respect, Karan, you're asserting that the vast majority of crimes are picking on people because they're Indian. I don't think the facts actually demonstrate that that's the case. We've had 33 arrests in Victoria as a result of these incidents. And those cases have been going through the Australian judicial system. And the courts will decide what in fact happened, and to the extent that they can make judgments on this, what the motivation was. And let's deal with these issues on a case-by-case basis rather than making generic assertions about what's happening.
Let's leave it to the courts to decide. We respect the courts in India just as you respect them in Australia. Let's come instead to a second issue of fundamental concern this weekend to the Indian people. It seems that the comments being made by some of your most senior ministers are not just insensitive, but appear to be in a state of denial. Let me begin by quoting Julia Gillard, your Deputy Prime Minister, speaking days after 2 Indians had been killed. She says, in big cities around the world, we do see acts of violence from time to time. That happens in Melbourne, it happens in Mumbai, it happens in New York, it happens in London. To Indian ears, that response, days after 2 Indians have been killed, feels callous, it feels unfeeling. It feels insensitive.
Well, I don't think that our Deputy Prime Minister would in any way wish to provoke those sorts of feelings amongst the Indian community.
Can you concede that she has provoked them?
Well, I can't speak for the feelings of the Indian community, but let me make this point, Karan. What she was saying is not, in my view, provocative or outrageous. She was making a point about urban crime and the nature of urban crime and the fact that, unfortunately, this is something which all of us who live in cities have to live with.
Except for the fact...
If I could just finish this. Unless you are taking issue with the content of what she said, in other words, unless you're saying that urban crime does not exist in cities apart from Australia, I'm struggling to understand why you would take such serious objection to her comment.